Welcome back to In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Charlotte Brown, and on today's show, we've been talking with Susan Redmond-Bordeaux, and she's a speech pathologist over at the Outpatient Neurology Program at St. Joseph's Care Group. And before the break, we were talking basically about, concussions, the post-concussion syndrome group, and what that kind of looks like for somebody to go into this. So I'm guessing when you have a concussion, you've went either to Emerge or you're seeing your doctor. That's how you get referred, I would guess, to the program.
Right. So we accept referrals from the physicians, from nurse practitioners, and sometimes they come from specialists. So someone has seen a neurologist or someone else that refers them on to us so that we bring them into our program. Those referrals we then take and we bring the clients in. We do an initial interview with a team member on our program and determine whether they're appropriate for the group or not.
Right, and this is all group activities. None of this is one-on-one. Like, I'm just thinking, you're a speech pathologist.
Right.
Would you actually do that in a group setting, or would you ever have one-on-one appointments?
Well, in this case, it's all group.
Yeah.
Possibly after the client has gone through the group program, they may then come in and see someone at one of the disciplines for what we call single service, where they would just see one discipline, or they may come into our team program where they would see more than one person. So if they have residual issues that they need to or would like to address, then we would bring them in and they would see us one-on-one. Our hope is that when they come in and they see us in the group, that the majority of their concerns are addressed with that, but we know that that's not always the case, and then we can bring them in and see us individually.
And what do those group meetings look like? We talked about the initial intake, that basically people are interviewed to make sure that they make for a good candidate, that this group will be of benefit for them. Are these weekly meetings? Is there maybe a different topic that's covered at each meeting? Or?
So the group is 6 weeks, and it's 2.5 hours once a week. We talk about a different topic every week. So the topics can be anything from just general information about concussions. We usually start with that. We talk about attention and memory. We talk about communication, how to advocate for yourself, that self-advocacy piece. We talk about emotional regulation, mindfulness. We alternate between myself and the occupational therapist, the physiotherapist, so we have that sort of team approach, and all of us bring a different expertise to the group and from a different perspective, and yet we all work together interprofessionally to treat the whole person. That's the goal. So the group is designed for lots of discussion, so individuals are able to share their experiences with others. That's probably the greatest benefit of it. You know, they can share that information and share their experiences and learn from their peers, learn that they're not alone in this situation, because they often do feel alone.
Yes.
And so there's lots of good information sharing, lots of discussion, and we don't ever restrict that. I mean, we have a general guideline that we would go by, but once the discussion takes off, often we let that go and roll, and find that people will get the greatest benefit often from that.
Absolutely, yeah, just that connection. And what about supports for the family? Like, I'm just thinking, if somebody's been in an accident, this happens, and all of a sudden your life changes in a second. You're maybe not the same person you used to be. Maybe you're trying to deal with everything and coping. Maybe your mood has changed, or you even as a person, just you don't feel like yourself anymore, and the people who are kind of around you, so whether it's your spouse or your children, or are there things there that's available to even support the families as well?
We do provide some, and we have in the past provided some family support. That is something, those kinds of things are an area that we could always use more in the community, particularly. Their visits with us, their time with us is usually quite short. Our goal always is to find resources in the community so that they can continue to move forward with their rehabilitation in the community successfully, and for the families as well. So those what we consider mental health support, so social work, psychology, making connections with those community resources. We do have a social worker on our program. She's not directly involved with the group, but if the client then comes in to see us, we can provide support to the client as well as their families and children we have in the past. So.
And how about for ongoing after the 6 weeks? So you finish the 6-week program. What does that look like afterwards? Is there still the ability to come and drop in if you felt the need, or to still have that kind of connection afterwards? Or
we do one follow-up appointment after the individuals have come through the group, so that we can check up and see how things are going, see what, if any, resources or connections to the community they might need, or if they need to come in for one-on-one therapy. So that meeting is with one of the therapists and then our therapeutic recreationist, who's not directly involved with the group, but she does help to make those connections into the community. She's very aware of all the community programs, whether that be volunteer, whether it be fitness, aqua fitness, and any like March of Dimes, return to work, those kinds of things. So we're always looking for making those connections so that the clients that come through our program can continue to live their lives in the community when they're done with us. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and as many resources as there is possible to be able to kind of access, and I'm sure you partner with a lot of different organizations in the city to kind of set people up for, success after the program, and those supports and things that are in place and all that kind of stuff. And awesome.
Yeah.
So, best way for people to connect with the outpatient neurology program and concussion group. I know we mentioned a referral. Is that your only way to do it, or if somebody had questions, would they be able to?
They can contact our program, but they're not able to attend the program without the referral. But if they do have questions about the program, they can contact our program, and someone would be happy to answer questions if possible. And we will always try as much as possible to accommodate any questions, concerns, anything like that. So we always welcome people contacting us, and look forward to continuing to make those connections in the community.
Absolutely. And as we mentioned before, lots of times you don't even think of a program like this until you need it, and life can change in a split second, whether it's for yourself or for a loved one, a family member, whatever the case is. So knowing that resource is available. I'm curious as to just some feedback kind of from the group. How long has this group been going on in the city?
Okay. So we've run several groups now it's about 18 months that we've been running it. We don't run it consistently. We run when we have enough people to run it. It seems like the frequency is increasing as the word gets out. So we're trying to balance that with the resources that we have and staffing and the amount of referrals that we get. And we've had some really positive feedback. I think I mentioned one of the most commonly provided pieces of feedback is that people feel a connection with others. They feel like they're not alone in this, that they can learn from experiences of others, and they feel validated as to what they're going through. They appreciate having that knowledge and information to be good advocates for themselves moving forward as to what they need in their treatment, and again feel validated with their symptoms too, because that is something that we mentioned often isn't provided enough, or isn't the symptoms aren't validated by others, and so they feel like finally there's someone that recognizes and gets it exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, anything that we haven't covered today that you want to make sure, maybe we should talk about, is it at the main St. Joe's building?
It's at the hospital site right now.
Okay, yeah, because St. Joe's has numerous locations in the city as well.
They do, absolutely. They absolutely do. Right now it's offered there. You know, space is always a concern, and there was some talk about putting it off-site, but we're trying to keep it in the facility where we are right now. I don't know if that's going to happen in the future. It's always up in the air, and things do change, but right now it's at the hospital site on Algoma Street.
Right. And you said that it's kind of in terms of growing. Is there a reason why you think that there's more concussions? Is it activity in sports? Are we not being safe with our wearing headgear and things like that? Or
yeah, it doesn't seem to make sense, because we are much better at you know, requiring that use of helmets and being vigilant about it. I know my kids never leave the house without a helmet when they're going for a bike ride. You know, whenever they're skiing, I'm pushing that, you know, making sure they're wearing helmets. So and all those sports, you know, they're required to wear helmets now. I think part of it, I mean, you're right, probably the largest growing population of where we're seeing concussions is with kids who are involved in sports, adults too. I think it's probably, and there's some research that shows it's just greater involvement. And then the other part of that is better awareness. I would call it the Sidney Crosby effect, right? Where when people actually saw that there was a professional athlete that was experiencing those symptoms, they were like, this isn't just in my head. You know, exactly. So that awareness is a huge piece of it, and people are reporting it. They're being more cautious, and that's a good thing. We know that cumulative concussions can, you know, they get worse over time. The more you have, the worse your symptoms can be. So we really do want to avoid that as much as possible and be very vigilant about taking care of those heads.
Yeah, absolutely. When we know better, we can do better, as the saying goes.
Sure.
So are we missing anything that you wanted to make sure that the community knows about in terms of the program or about concussions in general? Or
I think that I just would really encourage people that if they're experiencing any of these symptoms after any type of head injury, even if they feel like the symptoms, you know, they've minimized them, or they're just feeling like it's not bad enough, that they contact their doctor and let them know it's really important that you don't suffer through something if there are things that you can do to help.
Yeah, absolutely.
To help yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that was a great thing about today's show, is knowing that there's varying degrees of severity and how easily a concussion can happen, and that we covered a lot of the symptoms and stuff, that if there is anybody watching today that has experienced that or knows of somebody that's maybe struggling, or, you know, definitely to have that conversation with your doctor and know that there's definitely some great options out there, and we have some wonderful care in the community as well.
Definitely. Even those mild symptoms, often the mild symptoms respond very well to using strategies that, you know, if you have some mild memory difficulties, you know, we're lucky that we live in a time now where there are lots of devices and things that we can use to help when we're having difficulty with memory. So, you know, some very small changes in the way that you do things or strategies that you use can make a big difference in how you function.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, Susan, for being on the show today and telling us all about St. Joseph's Care Group's outpatient neurology program, all the great work that you do over there.
Thank you.
And we'll definitely put on the screen the St. Joseph's Care Group website, that if people want to get in touch, and the telephone number that they know definitely how to do that. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this week. Be sure to watch next week with more on In Your Neighborhood.